Hi friends, welcome to the NPTEL course Strategy and Technology Practical Primer. We are in week 8 with the theme of Technology and Competitive Strategy. In this lecture, the 37th in the series, we discuss competition in technology prism. Technology helps us to recognize the underlying enabler of products, businesses and firms. This we have done in the previous lecture. Competition is all about choice. The right of choice is a fundamental right of life, as important as right of freedom or right to equality, for example. Conventional definition of choice in terms of product launches and market spaces is inadequate in today's world. It would be more relevant to define the choice in terms of future product and technology pipelines. Strategists must have an insightful understanding of the current and future technological competencies of a firm. That should be seen as a more appropriate basis for competitor analysis. This lecture discusses how technology can lead to disruptive competition, which in turn can influence industry structure and firm clusters. Technology helps firms compete with each other, but the fundamental purpose must be recognized as serving customers and protecting the nature, which is the reason why we have discussed collaboration as one of the important elements of competitive strategy. Technology has two limbs, one application and development, two discovery and development. Application and development looks at application of available knowledge to solve problems or make things better. This is applied R&D. In fundamental discovery and development, we theorize, we experiment and validate laws of physical world to invent new products. Science and technology have for centuries governed progress for humans through development of improved products and services through the above two approaches. Every firm willy-nilly adopts one of the approaches or even both. How does competition provide choice? As I said, competition is important to develop choice options for customers, and the right of choice is a fundamental right of life, as important as it to have right of freedom or right to equality. Incomplete without technology is the fundamental view of competition. The study of competition can never be complete or meaningful without understanding the dynamics of underlying technology. Competing only on business principles or market principles will not deliver the goods for the consumers. The superficial and visible layer comprises the physical product and operational performance and financial markers of business operations. The physical product is seen by the company as well as the consumers. The operational performance is known only to the company, but the financial markers of business and operations get known to the stakeholders other than the consumers. So physical and financial markers exist for the competitive nature of the firm. But by creating new opportunities and means of choice for people, technology expands and creates these markets. It helps firms and industries to grow. Technology, therefore, is the key underlying driver for markets. The dynamics of technology and the agility with which companies can utilize these technological dynamics is important. Let's first study the visible layer, which is the product. Competitor analysis develops strategy for the firm. It is integral to the theory of competitive strategy. In pre-digital world, competition and competitor analysis used to be integrated and interpreted only in terms of physical parameters. In the digital world, they have acquired a new abstractness. Each of these, that is competition and competitor analysis, can be assessed in terms of relative industry ranking, the most important one among them being the market share in an industry in which the firm operates. The breadth and depth of competitor analysis can be improved with analytics. We have seen that happening in one of the previous lectures. Comparative and absolute ratio analysis helps us get a better fix of the competition. In fact, analysis of each item of an income statement or balance sheet in relation to other base items does provide significant inputs to sharpening the competitive strategy of the firm. Commonly used markers for assessing competition are revenue, profit, growth, product or services, regions or markets, and investment. Financial analysis of competition is thus of value. But better insights can be gleaned from a detailed product market analysis of the competition and the underlying technological drivers. Rather than assess today's competitiveness, companies should analyze the future competitiveness of the firms. Traditionally, the market department provides information on competitors' new product launches and marketing moves. Similarly, the strategy department undertakes a financial analysis of competitors. However, very rarely R&D department is involved in competitor analysis. This is an anomaly which gives short shrift to technology, and it needs to be rectified because technology drives everything. R&D department actually must be one of the core pillars of competitor analysis, competitiveness analysis. So market canvas for the current and future product range must be determined by R&D. Product pipeline, products under development must be articulated by R&D. The product and market development activities of the competitors must be tracked by R&D. And voluntary disclosures by firms to acquire anticipatory customer must also be known to R&D. Why is it so? Because most of these markers which I have discussed provide validation for R&D department to look at new products for development. An automobile marker has a preview of the concept cars provided by its competitors years ahead through international automobile exhibitions. The more R&D people get involved in such events and exhibitions, the more they will be able to understand competitive moves or frontier moves and try to incorporate them. Even these firms may themselves display their concept products and obtain valuable feedback. If a competitor looks at the product under development very closely in the exhibition, clearly it is a sign that the product has got merit in it. We have proliferation of specialist magazines which are dedicated to various product groups. These also provide a lot of useful information, and this has enhanced transparency on the future evolution. The patent applications made and granted also provide a lot of information on the future competitiveness of companies. However, neither product launches nor product performance offers sufficient understanding of competitor activity. We have to be clear about tracking the competitors in multiple ways, as I have discussed. This fundamental tracking starts from the time the company makes patent applications. The earliest stage is that. Patents granted by the patent offices is the next step. Product announcements made by the firms is the third step. Product pipeline outlined in investor calls forms the fourth step. Development projects undertaken with vendors provides more definitive understanding that the projects are going to be undertaken in reality. Preparations for dealers on new products, setting up of new facilities and capacity additions, testing and homologation announcements, and actual product launches start off once the physical decisions on products and processes are made. Now, these decisions are not sequential, they are simultaneous. Even as the product announcement is being made, it's quite possible that a facility could be set up. It is important to track all these 9 factors simultaneously, and it also must be tracked whether these are being made with own technologies, university technologies, or collaborative and licensed technologies. Many of the innovations that feature in as commercial products start as patent applications for new technologies. Common diesel rail system that is used in diesel engines, fuel micro mixing system which is used to improve the fuel efficiency of diesel engines, electronic injection which is used to obtain higher levels of Euro emission conformance, catalytic converters which were the fundamental first steps towards control of emissions. These were all first patented before they came into actual development and manufacturing process. Similarly, foldable displays, IP water resistance, in-display cameras, bezel-less phones, these were all patented before commercialization. In fact, long before commercialization in each case. We have to be aware that not all patent applications will become finally commercial products. However, the universe of patent applications which a company has and the universe of the patents that have been granted to the company provide us with sufficient indicators of the technological capability, particularly the futurist technological capability of the company. When you look at competition and industry boundary, it is important to define it in terms of a good industry definition and a good customer need perception. The broad function, that is the need fulfillment, should provide for precision as well as flexibility. It should not be too broad, nor should it be too narrow. Similarly, customer needs for products and services must be very specific, but at the same time provide for certain adjacency. The interesting and intriguing fact of industry boundary is the interplay of technology shifts, consumer needs, and player positions. The bus industry and the car industry are one in respect of carrying passengers, but in terms of the markets and market segments, they are completely different because they cater to different users, although the users are individuals seeking transportation. The use of transportation may be the same, but the underlying product technology is quite different. So industry boundary plays a role in defining competition. But overlaps in industry definition are unavoidable on 3 dimensions. Technology, however, is the defining dimension. Those 3 dimensions are product at a basic level, functionality at a delivery level, and technology at an enabler level. Given the complexity, the industry in which a firm operated needs to be defined in 3 ways, as I mentioned. At one level, the two-wheeler industry and the low-cost car industry could be competing because they are catering to the low-income small families. But the level of competition depends upon the product price or its life cycle operational cost or even parking space. At another level, the same paradigm can be flipped. They can never be competitors, as the products cannot be designed, manufactured, or delivered using the same or similar infrastructure. You cannot manufacture a car in a two-wheeler manufacturing facility. Therefore, there is the issue of technological proximity or technological distance as a key defining factor of what constitutes competition. A land phone and a cell phone may be designed and produced using common strands of technology, but each of the 2 products would fall in different markets because of the usage factor. In a sunrise industry, which is built by and around the innovator, who would also be a monopolist, the firm tends to ignore the concept of competition. This provides a false sense of security. Competition emerges even in sunrise monopolist industries sooner or later. When an innovator designs and discovers a new drug, that company cannot believe that it is the only drug that is going to be available eternally. I have earlier talked about drugs with the same pathway, but having different structural changes and also having different disease pathways and having better therapeutic profile, which could also be patented. Omeprazole was the first-in-class proton pump inhibitor, that is a drug which reduces the acid secretion in the stomach. Thereafter, several others came in. Lansoprazole, pantoprazole, rabeprazole got developed by others, and some of them had advantages of either lower dose or better therapeutic profile. Similarly, we had the movement of external memory from the vinyl disk and floppy disk to CD and DVD, and later on to flash memory. Now it's all going to the cloud memory. This is another example of industry definitions getting changed. According to Clayton Christensen, who proposed disruptive innovation, these developments signified exactly that. Ability to completely overshadow the products of the past era and create new industries. So a product cannot be taken to give false sense of security, even if it has been innovated for the first time and overriding the previous product. What has happened to the previous product can also happen to the latest product. Competition is also not merely in terms of the followers offering the same products and services. It is in terms essentially of new players offering alternate and differentiated products or services. And those products or services make the innovator product or service less competitive. The first wave will be of differentiated products, followed after patent expiry by imitators. So innovator comes, creates the market for the product and also probably the industry itself. Then differentiators come in, they expand the industry further. And the massive expansion in the industry takes place when the patents expire and the generic players are able to come into the industry. This is the inevitable cycle of competition. How do we redefine competition when we are saying that due to digitization, competition is much more abstract and ubiquitous and also much more unpredictable and disruptive than ever? How do we understand the competitive triggers from diverse sources, and how do we transform these into the multiple forms that competition represents? Conglomerate competition is a new potent force. Technology becoming more ubiquitous for such companies. Google, or the parent now Alphabet, undertakes development of autonomous cars, contact lenses, and vision glasses. The traditional method of competitor analysis, which is limited to an industry or sub-industry and a few players and products, doesn't work in the case of conglomerate competition. Google, as an internet giant, is pioneering products of futuristic technologies. This is an example of such insufficiency, because Google brings to play a whole range of underlying technological threats which others are not able to bring. Technology is therefore the central driver of competitiveness and competition. Some of the technology can be seen as the product or the process, but most of the technology will be invisible under the hood, as we may say, and that is the one which is actually powering competition. Any component or a subsystem of the component could be equally a telltale sign of competition, and we need to really take the product through to the smallest part, to the smallest material, to understand where and how the competition is redefining itself technologically. Competition is an endless continuum. The case of the watch industry has been discussed by us in another context. Let's discuss it in terms of the competitive trends. The initial threat for the handmade hand-bound watches was the self-winding automatic movement. That is, you can keep shaking the watch and it will keys itself and is a self-winding system that way. The introduction of quartz automatic movement provided the first serious competition to such technology based on discontinuity of technology. Then came the electronic movements. They posed the second serious threat. The watch industry, however, weathered this storm by reinforcing the handmade quality to retain the watch as a fashion accessory, while simultaneously integrating electronics as well as perpetual kinetics as luxury designs. This reinforced timekeeping perfection with lifestyle elegance. Cell phone with its time display made watches redundant for certain sections of the population. However, with smartwatches coming into play, taking care of the health state of the individual, watch has made a reinvention of its own. Digital watches have become more important, not merely more fashionable. And this added functionality of health has made watch an indispensable item for the current times as well as for the future times. It is conceivable, therefore, that the watch industry would be continuing to reinvent itself, and it will invent to integrate cellular smartness in its artful designs. Future watches will be communication smart as well as health smart, and it will also sport fashionable art. Worn on the wrist and with newer non-invasive diagnostic technologies, there would be high-style health keepers of the future. Trends towards that are already taking place. Watches which protect people from falling, or if somebody falls, alerting the emergency services. Watches which provide real-time ECG information. Watches which discover unusual heart movements, the stress levels. These are all possibilities, many of which are already into digital watches, mostly of Apple variety. Forces of competition engulf different industries in different manners, mainly based on the way technology changes the course of product design and user functionality in products. Traditional mechanical or electrical devices such as automobiles or machine tools are slow to get disruptive competition. Most industries changed their products, their process and the functionalities. They had much convergence and divergence coming into their products. However, the automobile industry stood still, almost to say, without getting any new technological transformations of that nature. And for those industries, competition is tracked through conventional product market share analysis of individual players. But there is another class of products which is the electromechanical device class. Example, photocopier or scanner. These are prone to periodic bursts of disruptive competition, and these need to be tracked through product market analysis plus superimposition of product life cycles. We also have the latest generation electronic and digital devices, example, computer or smartphone. Disruptions in technology, including convergence and divergence of product functionalities, become very important to understand the competition here. And there has to be a multi-layered analysis of visible and invisible technological features. Broadly, different classifications of technology competition interplay are possible based on the nature of digitization. So how do we do the overall competitor analysis? Overall technical power of the organization can be looked at as one driver. Overall synergy of the constituent product groups could be the other driver, and analysis of the technology itself could be the third driver. When you have pockets of technology getting developed in the startups, and when they get merged into established firms, suddenly the technological power of the mainstream company would increase manifold. So analysis of technology cannot be based only on the large firms and only on the basis of their products. It needs to be broadened to include different types of firms in diverse technology clusters. So this brings us to the topic of technology fluidics. Technology, like water, is fluid. The concept of mobility barriers may be there in strategy, may be there in real competitive dynamics, but technology is one factor which will overcome mobility of any type purely based on scientific and technological development. From the firm's point of view, we have the mobility barrier as a real barrier. Scope of investment is defined on one side, scale of investment is defined on the other side. And we also have seen that if mobility barriers are low, firms are tempted to compete in different product market segments or strategic groups, and this enhances competitive intensity. But what makes mobility barrier low? What enables the company to move across the mobility barriers? It is the power of technology. It redefines the company's power to move across the mobility barrier. It also redefines the industry itself. As the mobility barrier between different industrial segments collapses, the entire industry will become one. Similarly, as the barriers between one industry and its adjacent industries reduce, that industry becomes a more agglomerated, bigger industry. So there is a new paradigm of defining industry and the mobility barrier, and that paradigm is based on technology. Examples of technology fluidics are many. But newer technologies generally have this kind of fluidic ability and adaptive agility, which I have referred to. This enables them to be deployed on multiple classes of products. Sensors in hardware and artificial intelligence in software represent two examples of such platform technologies that could be utilized in many products. Flexible touchscreen technology can now be adapted to a huge range of screen sizes from 6 inches to 120 inches. It could result in a massive transformation in display capabilities of an entire range of electronic devices. Similarly, xenon flash or the point-and-shoot SLR DSLR technologies can be adapted to camera phones and video recorders in not too distant a future. Use of sensors in any equipment, from vacuum cleaners to assembly lines and from machining sectors to robots, is very much possible. The greater the discovery of platform technologies such as nanotechnology or graphenes, the greater would be the potential application across products and processes. Sensors have moved into agriculture. They can reduce the water consumption, they can control how the motors are run, they can assess the seed quality, they can assess the crop quality. It was kind of unthinkable that sensors which are used in smartphones or other electronic devices could be used in agriculture, which has nature's fury to contend with, but that has become possible. How do you measure technology fluidity? There are three measures of technological fluidity of a company. One, scalability. Number of months taken to commercially upscale or downscale any new technology to other devices in the same design family. That is, you got a foldable screen. How much time would you take to get the foldable screen onto the laptop? Because if you can make a mobile phone a laptop by having 2 screens or 3 screens which can be folded and opened up. If the same technology is used in laptop, it can become a large all-in-one computer as well. Similar situation could arise with televisions as well. What you take as a small television for a small room could be used as a scalable large television for a larger room. So scalability of technologies is one of the important aspects of measurement of fluidics in technology. The second is transferability. That is the months taken to embed the technology of one device into a significantly different device belonging to another design family. Scalability is with reference to the same design family, but transferability is to another design family. And fidelity, that is the felicity with which the new technology can be embedded or integrated into the existing or redeveloped products. That is the fidelity. The more relevant theory, therefore, would be to view all technology that is within the company as a driver of competitiveness. We should not be seeing fluidity of technology only through the product technology. All the technologies which we possess, which are capable of scaling up, transferring, and improving the fidelity, must be taken together to understand a firm's technological ownership, firm's intellectual power, and the commercial access. And that together will be the competitive or collaborative force. That technology power, technology fluidics, need not necessarily be used only as a competitive power. It could be used as a collaborative force as well. So the conclusion is that technology is an embedded invisible platform. It is abstract in a sense. We need to possess, or we need to develop expert vision to identify technology fluidics in terms of commercial potential and feasibility. But it is so fundamental and ubiquitous that we have to look at technology on its own before we test the commercial capability. But the problem is that Porter's five forces theory considers technology as a competitive force only through the other physical surrogates. This would result in quite a delayed stage competitive analysis. We need to understand technology far before we can decipher the industrial forces. So competition and technology must be assessed upfront. The technology fluidics influence mobility barriers. They redraw the strategic groups. They dictate or enable movement across strategic groups and redraw the industry boundaries. An insightful understanding of the current and future technological competencies of a firm in terms of technological platforms constitutes an appropriate basis for competitor analysis. Let's look at Dell. As we go forward, I'll try to include some case studies relating to great firms and see how they have either grown or reinvented themselves and how they have used technology as a driver of competitive strategy. The vision of Dell is to excel over itself. That itself speaks volumes about Dell's technology fluidics. Dell, as we all know, is a computer and hardware and software industry company. It was founded in 1984 by Michael Dell in Texas, US. Today, Dell has a revenue of $94 billion with net income of $3 billion. Net means profits after all the taxes and dues to be given. It is a subsidiary of the parent corporation. We have 165,000 employees in Dell and market plants across US as well as in Brazil. Market capitalization, you may note, is less than revenue. Products are personal computers, servers, peripherals, smartphones, televisions. In 1984, it started with just $1,000 investment by Dell. In 1988, within 4 years, Dell went public and the company is renamed as Dell Computer Corporation. In 1995, goes global, drives big ideas across the world. In 1996, it starts its e-commerce operations. It was a pioneer in e-commerce relating to computers and connecting devices. It also opened its Asia Pacific Customer Care Center in Malaysia. Knowledge outsourcing has been one of the biggest planks of growth for Dell. In 2001, Dell became #1 computer systems provider worldwide. and reached number 1 in US Intel-based server shipments. That's the kind of growth Dell managed, and that was possible because of its unique platform of enabling the customers choose the options based on wide variety of hardware and software specifications that were offered as a menu. In 2004, Dell became China's third largest provider of computer systems and services, and shipment growth of 60% was 4 times that of the industry. In between 2004 and 2013, the company had its roller coaster as Michael Dell moved out of the company. But in looking at the company's deteriorating performance, Michael Dell and private equity firm Silver Lake Partners bought back Dell from the public shareholders. The newly combined Dell Technologies marks the completion of the biggest tech deal in history. Though after that, Dell didn't have the kind of scorching growth which it had between 1988 and 2001, suffice it to say that Dell has remained as the frontline computer manufacturer in the world in spite of so many other computer companies coming into play. And that reflects the technology and strategy strength of Dell. The slip I referred to between 2010 and 2020 happened in the 1990s. The company attempted to make portable computers in 1990, and that initiative was only mildly successful. In 2014, the company had a near fatal experience as the inventory management went off the bounds. The company had to temporarily shut down as it was producing computers without obtaining approval from FCC. This is one of the hazards of doing things in parallel rather than sequentially where it is required. When Dell decided to take the company private, it faced severe threat from Carl Icahn, an activist investor who took stock position in Dell and pushed for multiple board seats. Dell had a series of learning experiences because of these bad developments, and this helped the company to rethink and create more competitive laptops, which Dell specializes in at this stage. Dell is a company where innovation and execution match each other. Dell in the past was a company built relying largely on execution. As long as the demand for PCs grew, Dell grew. If there were to be a roller coaster in the PC demand, Dell would have serious issues. The sell, build, deliver model became troublesome when the market started shifting to a range of computing devices, and with smartphones taking over some of the functions of computers. Dell did not have the ability to innovate or create new products. It did try to get into cell phone business, but it was not an innovative entry. But Dell had to continue and persevere. So it started shifting the focus from execution to innovation. And Dell Technologies came in. Customers started growing. Despite the ever-changing landscape, new products were being made available by Dell Technologies. Now Dell Technologies looks at total customer solution, not merely the PCs or servers, but the entire PC and IT infrastructure innovation across edge, core data centers and public clouds. It modernizes its infrastructure portfolio with Dell EMC PowerStore, PowerScale, PowerFlex, and expands hybrid cloud capabilities with Dell Technologies Cloud and Ruggedized VxRail Hyperconverged Infrastructure HCI for edge environments. So without innovation of this nature, moving away only from computers to the entire computing ecosystem, including cloud, Dell could innovate and execute. The Dell path to innovation is that if you have complexity, growth is inhibited. So it started analyzing the IT spend of companies. There is a discretionary spend and there is a non-discretionary IT spend. If you are able to remove the unnecessary complexity, it will drive more innovation. So the hardware architecture and software solutions were designed to ease the typical IT infrastructure burden for the companies. Less infrastructure maintenance means more business innovation. Given that most IT companies spend around 70% of their IT budget on ongoing operations and maintenance, and only because 30% is left for driving new initiatives. Innovation at the client level or the company level is low. If Dell could simplify this whole paradigm of the clients, then there would be more innovation with the customers. Therefore, there would be more innovation at Dell as well. It also looked at a total solution, building standardized reference architectures, pre-validated solution stacks, and providing the best practices and specialized services to simplify IT in an unprecedented way. So Dell started thinking for the company's larger needs, from being supplier of computers for individuals and also individuals in businesses. It started providing total solutions for a company's IT infrastructure and services environment. So in 2015, Michael Dell thought that he needed to have complete control over the company so that this business model transformation can be conceptualized further and executed. Under his total control, Dell became a full service provider for IT, whose next major moves are a full business transformation to all things that are digital. Different leaders think differently. Steve Jobs thought tablet would take over PC, and he put in more innovation in tablet. Michael Dell, on the other hand, believed that tablet would never take over PC. He kept on putting more investment in PC design, innovation, and focus on laptops in the last 10 years. Both, of course, succeeded because the overall market grew tremendously. Dell believed in getting into the customer doors by selling its PC and then selling the software services and IT solutions. Dell started relooking at what the customers wanted, and he started showing the future previews to excite the customers as to what could be thought of for future developments. And this enabled the clients to think of a future direction for the next decade's plan. Dell also simultaneously looked at the current pain points of the customers, the practical problems experienced in managing the IT infrastructure, and started analyzing how process of data collection and data analysis could be simplified. He also realized that the data generation is of such humongous proportions that the CPU power will need to be 3 to 4 times, and the bandwidth would need to be at least 2 to 3 times that was prevalent even by the futuristic projections. And he believed that Dell would need to reimagine itself entirely to compete in the future, and executed on this new vision and strategy once he took over the company full scale. What is the strategic focus of Dell for the next few years? Dell plans to work closely with telcos and 5G technology providers to make 5G a big part of customer products and services. So, developing products and services to fully leverage the 5G enormous data transmission and data download capabilities. Second, back it up with high performance computing. So power of the next generation computing will be available to the customers through Dell. Third, women empowerment. Some of the goals or strategic foresight need to be beyond the products and hard revenue earners. They need to be in terms of the organizational culture and the ESG parameters, sustainability parameters of the company. So one of the visions of Dell is that by 2030, 50% of its employees should be women. 4. Corporate social responsibility. Focus on sustainability, environment, inclusion, and diversity for the next 10 years is built into the Dell strategic plan. Dell is also providing a lot of emphasis on customer privacy. Therefore, customers would be more confident and more assured in buying Dell products. And finally, but most importantly, Dell plans significant investments in artificial intelligence and machine learning so that they could be used in innovative ways to help their customers, because customers will be moving their business transformation processes into full speed in the digital world. So the computers, the infrastructure, servers, the cloud connectivity, all of that should be supporting that kind of goals of the clients. There, artificial intelligence comes in a big way. It is also looking at IoT marketplace. Dell Technologies' strategy and vision for IoT is focusing on helping the customer to efficiently address the challenges of navigating the large marketplace. Dell has started a Pan Dell Technologies IoT Solutions division, One of the ways in which you can incubate technology is to create a new division, because only the people who know the technology in depth can have conviction and also the competence to take this technology towards practical realization. This does many of the things which a new incubator should do, providing products to partners and system integrators. It has showcased many use cases and applications that leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning in global supply chains, manufacturing, healthcare, genomics, and other industries. Dell also has announced a $1 billion plan to fund innovation in this space over the next 3 years. So we need to have a vision and we need to have a resource to back it up. Industry leadership. Once a proper technology strategy is executed along with the business strategy, the technology awards that the company has received and the top diversity and inclusion honors the company has received speak a lot about the industry leadership, not merely in terms of revenue performance, but also in terms of ESG performance. In the gaming laptops, ultra sharp premier color monitors, curved WHD monitor, there have been several awards run through Dell capability technologies spectrum. As a result of this, company rankings have been very good. Number 4 in Fast Company's Best Workplaces for Innovators 2020. Number 10 in Newsweek's 2021 list of America's Most Responsible Companies. 2021 World's Most Ethical Company Award, Ethisphere Institute. Number 2 in the computer industry on Fortune's Most Admired Companies. Fortune World's 25 Best Workplace Award in 2020. CDP's Climate Change A list for 2020. They speak volumes about the company's diversified vision, not merely in terms of products and services, but also into sustainability positioning. Financials have kept pace with that kind of ambition. Although in 2018 and 19 it has seen negative net income, the income has turned positive based on the new products introduced. As you can see, the financial performance is always subject to competitor actions and competitive pressures. The only way a company can come out of that logjam is by investing in technologies, understanding the customer needs better, making the customers understand what technology can do for them, and come up with appropriate products and services. If you are interested more in this, you can refer to these notes on Dell Technologies. Thank you. With this, we come to the end of the second lecture in this week. We will meet again tomorrow.